He dropped to his knees in the pouring rain, not in defeat, in decision. A man who hadn't touched a patient in 3 years knelt before a stranger's wheelchair and said 5 words that would change 4 broken lives forever. Let me help her. She was the daughter of a billionaire. He was a widowed father hiding in the mountains. She'd lost the ability to walk. He'd lost the will to heal. But what neither of them knew was that the men who brought them together had a secret that could destroy them all. Drop the name of the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now. You don't want to miss what happens next. The rain had been falling for 6 hours straight. The kind of Montana downpour that turned dirt roads into rivers and made the mountains disappear behind curtains of gray water. Nathan Cole sat at his kitchen table with a medical journal open in front of him, but he wasn't reading. He was listen, breathe in. The next room. The soft rhythm that had become his anchor to the world for the past 3 years. Then came the knock. Not a polite tap, not a neighbor's casual rap. This was a fist against wood. Desperate, urgent. The kind of knock that says, I have nowhere else to go. Nathan pushed back from the table. Nobody drove up this mountain after dark. The road was treacherous enough in daylight, and the nearest town was 40 minutes away on a good day. Whoever was out there had fought through hell to reach his door. He opened it. The man standing on his porch was soaked through his silver hair, plastered flat against his skull, his expensive shoes ruined by mud. Nathan recognized him immediately. Richard Blackwell, the pharmaceutical giant whose people had called twice in the past year, offering obscene amounts of money for consultations. Nathan had refused both times. But Nathan barely registered the billionaire. His eyes went straight to the figure beside him. A young woman sat in a wheelchair, rain streaming down her face. She wasn't crying. Her expression held something worse than tears. Complete emptiness, like someone had reached inside her and turned off every light. Her hands lay motionless in her lap. Her eyes stared at nothing. Nathan had seen that look before on patients who had stopped fighting on his wife's face in the final hours, on his own reflection in the months after he buried her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He stepped into the rain, knelt in front of the wheelchair until his eyes were level with hers, and spoke in a voice so steady it surprised even himself. Let me help her. The young woman's gaze shifted barely, just a fraction, but enough to tell Nathan that somewhere behind that wall of emptiness, someone was still listening. Get inside, he said, standing. Both of you. Now, Richard Blackwell wasn't a man accustomed to taking orders. At 60 years old, he commanded a pharmaceutical empire worth $11 billion. He'd buried a wife, built a dynasty, and bent markets to his will. But tonight, dripping rainwater onto a stranger's cabin floor, he did exactly what Nathan Cole told him to do. Her name is Elena. Richard said, his voice rough. She's my daughter. I know who she is. Nathan was already moving, pulling towels from a hallway closet, adjusting the wheelchair's angle away from the draft near the door. Elena Blackwell, 26, former principal dancer, New York City Ballet. Car accident 10 months ago. T10 T11 spinal cord injury classified as complete. Richard stared at him. How do you? Your people sent her file both times they contacted me. I read it. I read everything. Nathan draped a dry towel across Elena's shoulders. She didn't acknowledge it. Didn't acknowledge him. What I want to know is why you drove up a mountain in a rainstorm instead of calling first. Richard's jaw tightened. Because you would have said no again. You're right. I would have. Then why did you just to tell me to come inside? Nathan didn't answer immediately. He was watching Elena, the way her fingers lay perfectly still against her thighs, the deliberate emptiness in her posture. He treated dozens of spinal injury patients during his years at Boston Medical Center. He could always tell the difference between a body that couldn't move and a spirit that had stopped trying. Elena Blackwell was both. Because she's here, Nathan said finally. And she's cold, and whatever conversation we're about to have, it shouldn't happen while she's shivering. A small voice came from the hallway. Daddy, who's at the door? Lily appeared in the dim light, 7 years old. Brown curls wild around her face, clutching the teddy bear that had been her constant companion since the day her mother died. He looked at Richard with wide eyes, then at Elena, then back at her father. Lily, this is Mr. Blackwell and his daughter Elena. They've traveled a long way tonight. Lily studied the visitors the way children do, without pretense, without social calculation. Her gaze settled on Elena, and something passed across the little girl's face. Not pity, recognition. She walked straight to the wheelchair, reached up, and placed her teddy bear on Elena's lap. When I'm sad, Teddy helps, Lily said simply. You look really sad. He can stay with you tonight. The room went still. Richard, who had negotiated billion-dollar mergers without blinking, felt his throat close because his daughter, who hadn't responded to 8 world-class specialists, 4 rehabilitation centers, and every luxury money could provide, moved her fingers. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Aliana's right hand shifted across the worn fur of a child's stuffed animal. Nathan saw it, too. He said nothing, but he filed it away in the part of his brain that had made him the most unconventional neurologist in the country before he'd walked away from it all. Lily, he said gently, can you make some hot tea for our guests while I talk to Mr.